Aditya Cable and Digital Network presents the longest running episodic talk show in India in association with the Dusra.net, India's number one and only sports, education, and entertainment. After crushing and dismantling Bangladesh in the 20 over matches, it's time to go back to the traumatizing 5-day matches. And as we have seen, right now only the 20 over World Cup and the Test Championship are on the minds of the cricket board and the players, as the scheduling shows their mindset. We only have scheduled the 20 over matches, and then on the extreme it's the test matches. This also means that Rishabh Pant won't be in favor of the selectors, and they will go back to the more boring Ridhiman Saha as the wicket keeper. Even if Saha was labelled as the best keeper in the world in terms of technique, we saw the attitude towards him by the management, as they did not trust him to score quick runs when it came to the point of declaration, and Ravindra Jadeja has become the point man in this case. With none of the established all-rounders available right now, as Shankar and Pandya are recovering from injuries, and no way are they going to think of Shivam Dube as a potential all-rounder in the test matches. Despite all the cry of moving forward and all the talk of pseudo-modernism, Shivam Dube, if not selected for the test matches, will show the attitude of the selectors and the team management as to their rigid mindset. They will have the excuse that a certain Shivam Dube has not played domestic matches, that is the 4-day domestic local matches, so he is not tuned to playing the international 5-day match. But I find this reasoning preposterous and medieval. If they are planning to go with a 4+1 combination, that is 4 fast bowlers and 1 spinner, then Jadeja might be the designated spinner. But if they go with 4 fast bowlers, and if one of the 4 fast bowlers is not the all-rounders, that is Shankar, Pandya or Dubey, or if they are not keen on selecting Bhuvneshwar Kumar as the fast bowler for test matches, if the team includes 4 fast bowlers as Shami, Bumrah, Umesh and Ishant, then it will weaken the batting. So either they include Ashwin as one of the all-rounders in the spinning category, or they include Bhuvneshwar Kumar or Shivam Dube as one of the fast bowling all-rounders. But I don't think the selectors or the team management is going to think in such a radical manner. They will be conservative as far as this particular test match is concerned. No Hardik Pandya, no Bhuvneshwar Kumar in the team, and it's a huge mistake. Bumrah is still semi-injured, so they are keeping him out, but the non-selection of any of the all-rounders because of their feudal and archaic mindset will backfire, and they will regret this decision if the match does not turn in their favor, because as the tournament progresses, the Test World Cup progresses, and if the final is to be scheduled outside India, then they will need a fast bowling all-rounder in the team. And because Rishabh Pant hasn't made the runs, Saha, despite his batting deficiencies, because he is supposed to be a better keeper, he will get the nod. Though for me, this is a step backward. But let's talk about the overhyped pink ball day and night test that has been circling for the past couple of weeks. Now, the definition of a day and night match is if the match starts at 2 p.m. How will the match be called day and night if it starts at 11:30 a.m.? Because in most countries, if you look at the schedule, most countries the start time is between 10 and 11 a.m. And if these countries organize a day and night test match as Australia has done, then the match starts at either 1:30 p.m. or 2 p.m. You cannot call it a day and night test match if it starts at 11:30 a.m. At worst, you can call it an afternoon evening match because the match will get over by 7 p.m. local time, and that does not constitute a day and night situation. Because if you look at the previous matches schedule, day and night would mean that they would start at 2 p.m., they would have a 2 hour session, then at 4 they would have tea, and if rains and other minor things do not interrupt a match, then the second session would be scheduled between 4:20 p.m. and 6:20 p.m. depending on how the match goes. Then we would have from 6:20 to 7 p.m. dinner. Yes, if you have a day and night test match, then you have dinner, not lunch. Then from 7 to 9 or 9:30, you would have the final session. And that is how the ideal day and night test match should be. But here, the Indian administration or the cricket board are trying to be different. They do not want to copy other countries, and we know when it comes to copying, it is such a fine and a sensitive line that is drawn here. And as I said, why do we need the pink ball? Why don't we play with colored clothing, especially for these matches with the white ball? Why have this pink ball? There are already enough colored balls in this sport. Why do we need one more? And the reason for organizing a pseudo day and night test match was, well, you may not believe it, because of dwindling number of spectators watching the match. Well, we know why in India there is a dwindling number of spectators. It has nothing to do with the emergence of 20 over matches. It has everything to do with the attitude of the organizers towards the people watching the match. Anyways, full house is a misnomer. Never has ever there been a full house for this particular format in any country. One doesn't have to be emotional about a less than capacity stadium because it has never happened before, and the excuses and the reasoning by the cricket board and other individuals that people want to watch match after coming home. Well, if you have a match starting at 11:30, you will not have a full house. In fact, instead of 9:30, the regular match should start at 11:30, and the day and night match should either start at 1 p.m. or 1:30 or 2 p.m. depending on the organizers. But 11:30, you cannot call it a day and night match. It's a half day and night match. So this is a quiz for my listeners. Who will be the likely 11 for the first match starting tomorrow? And it's not a coincidence that tomorrow is 14th November, which is often labeled as Children's Day, which means that forced to sit in the scorching sun to watch the match. They may or may not be interested. They may have other things on their mind, but to show and give this feeling that children are interested in this sport, and we may see a future batter or a bowler or a future player from one of these kids. You might see the administrations, the government giving a holiday on Children's Day and asking children to come to the match and watch the match in scorching sun, and we don't even know if they are given water or food properly, because in my experience that has never happened. Imagine children between the ages of 8 to 15-year-old sitting in 40-degree sun, being forced to watch a match, being forced to fly the Indian flag, even if they have other things on their mind. The only way you can respect these children, if you have to call them, and if it's such a urgency to show that you have individuals interested in this sport, will be if the administration does not force them to sit in the scorching sun. They give them a VIP room, just as some VIPs, that is very irritating individuals, are given a room. They should be given free food, free drinks, and they should be allowed to meet the players after the match is over and take autographs. Then only will all this exercise be vindicated. And if they do not follow this, if they force the children to be in the scorching sun, and if water and food become a luxury and not a necessity that they have to scramble for the same, then this entire exercise is a PR failure. Because we know that children are the most gullible. You will tell them that you are going to watch a match in the stadium for free. The school, the administrations, the parents don't have to pay a penny, but there is a rider. They might have to pay for the food and drinks. Then what is the point of calling children in this heat? They might as well play in their backyards, whatever sport they want to play. And why don't we do this exercise in every sport? For example, we have India versus Afghanistan football qualifier match tomorrow scheduled in India. Why doesn't the Football Association of India do the same? Why doesn't the government have the same interest in having children see the football match? They don't have to pay for the refreshments. They should be allowed to meet the players post match. Only then will this make sense. But as far as the football match is concerned, despite its importance, despite what such matches can do for the country and take the country to the World Cup or the Asia Cup level, once again cricket will dominate the narrative, just as it has been doing for the women's division, despite the historic performances by the women's hockey team. The only women's team that has got all the praise and has been lauded for their efforts is, once again, you guessed it, the women's cricket team. Yes, the cricket team has done well, be it the men's or the women's or the disabled division. But what about the performances of the women, especially a team game, that is football, cricket, basketball, hockey? Why are their performances not being highlighted? Why are we so focused on women only if they play cricket or if they have made it to the highest level like PV Sindhu and her contemporaries? The Indian football team may or may not win the match against Afghanistan in the qualifiers. They're not performing in the way we are expected of them to perform. They haven't garnered up the points in this tournament. But for me, whenever I have seen them, despite the limited resources provided by the Football Association, they have performed well. When you have jerseys which are of such poor quality that you start sweating even before the match begins, when the jersey sticks to your body that it's such a headache to move around, then we know how the players feel. And if by some miracle India does manage to pip Afghanistan and get those two crucial points, as this is the last qualifying match of the year 2019, yet it will not become a first page news. So, what do the football and the hockey teams have to do to get their attention in the first page? Well, it's not easy. Cricket will and always will dominate the narrative, despite all the talks about it being a colonial sport, import from other countries. It will always get the major chunk of the pie. And when it comes to football, as I have reiterated millions of times, for us, football only means the various European leagues. And despite the high quality performances in the Indian Football League, that is the Indian Super League, it still doesn't get that kind of attention, because if you look at the print media, the newspapers, the last page of the newspaper has been reserved for eternity for football. And when I say football, I mean the European leagues. And with Euro 2020 not far away, don't be surprised if the broadcasting channels or newspapers or through digital media, Euro 2020 becomes a rage. Friend of yours loves football as a fan. He will not talk about a Sandesh Jhingan or a Anirudh Thapa. He will talk about a Messi, a Mohamed Salah, and all these players, because he knows that they will wake up at 1 a.m. to watch the match, but they will not bother about an obscure qualifier which India has to go through to have the dreams of playing their first ever football World Cup. When you're ranked at 106 in football rankings, it shows two things: the infrastructure provided to the Indian football, that they are stuck so low, and the number of teams that play this game, that the rankings are in such order. If you look at cricket or hockey, at best cricket has 12 or 13 teams, hockey has 16 or 17 teams, and football has a team from every country, especially from the subcontinent. Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Nepal are good quality football teams. They are not struggling in this sport compared to cricket. Afghanistan may be new to cricket, but football they have been playing for a long time. Yes, football is also an import. In fact, not many sports are indigenous to the subcontinent. At best, polo and kabaddi might be one of the few sports which are the subcontinent only, or the sports which belong to this part of the world. And as far as football is concerned, imagine the mindset of the players. They are playing the Indian Super League, that is the Indian football domestic tournament, and they have to turn up tomorrow to play an international match. And it has to be very carefully done, because we know this transition between domestic and international is slowly getting obscure, because Sunil Chetri, for example, is playing for Bangalore first class. Now he has to play for India tomorrow. Will he turn up for the match? Will it become a Messi Ronaldo like situation in which they give it their all as far as their domestic teams or clubs are concerned, but when it comes to their own country, the home team, the international matches, we see the likes of Messi, Ronaldo, and their contemporaries flatten out. And one of the major reasons is because these world tournaments like Euro 2020, World Cup happen once in 4 years, while these domestic tournaments are scheduled throughout the year. So you can guess on your own where the loyalty of these players lie, and the loyalty is because of the high fees paid to these players, the likes of Ronaldo, Messi, Mohamed Salah, and so many others. A major chunk of their standard of living depends on them playing for these domestic teams throughout the year. And we should not allow this to become a norm in as far as the Indian domestic tournaments are concerned, especially the Indian Super League, the Indian Football League. If you do not want that one day Sunil Chhetri, Anirudh Thapa says that they will not play for their team, but they will appear and play for their domestic teams or clubs. Why? Because there is much more loyalty over there, and the money provided by these teams is 10 times than the fees provided by their own country. Well, we can see that the quality of the stadiums, the structure of the stadiums, the full house for such matches, and the semi full house for the India matches. Well, you can see the attitude of the spectators, the players, the broadcasters, the organizers. It's all there glaring at you. And this discrepancy between infrastructure for the domestic matches versus the infrastructure for the international matches perplexes me. It confounds me. It's going to be an interesting situation as to how these players manage playing for both the clubs, the domestic teams, and the international team. And as far as why infrastructure becomes important, I will give you a pertinent example. For example, if you are giving an exam and the room you are in is stuffy, the fans don't work, the windows don't open, there are over 100 students in the same room, so the room is becoming hot, lot of carbon monoxide is there. On top of that, for a glass of water, it becomes a marathon. That if you go out to have a glass of water, you miss out on the precious minutes which you can utilize to give the exam. And if on top of that, the benches are broken, the nails are coming out, the seats are uncomfortable, it will make a difference in the way you give an exam. Yes, there are people who overcome this adversity, but that's just a small percentage. So imagine the players, if the grounds they play in, the grass itself is uneven, broken, stones around, the goal post is not of a good quality, the jerseys they wear, they are sweating profusely in it. How will these individuals play? On the other hand, when they play for their domestic teams in these domestic tournaments, the grass has been evened out, there are no pebbles, shoes are of good quality, the jerseys, they can breathe in that. Then where do you think the players will go? Where do you think an 18-year-old emerging player will go? Will he play for his country in terms of loyalty and sentiments, or will he play for his domestic sides who are providing him all the necessary infrastructure possible? Well, one would say that we cannot take things like infrastructure and provisions as an excuse, but they are not an excuse. They are important. This is no longer 1950s, 60s where you could not provide individuals infrastructure on the excuse that the Treasury Department of the government did not have enough in its coffers to cough out the necessary money required for the players to have a comfortable time on the field. If the external factors influence them, then how will they play? We cannot come up with juvenile excuses that no, this is how the things are. You have to do with what is available to you. You cannot perform well or throw tantrums because you are not getting the facilities provided. Well, this kind of mindset is medieval. Nobody in the world wants to sit on mattresses and give an exam. Nobody wants to sit on broken benches. If the administration cannot provide for such basic infrastructure, then the individuals in the administration have no right to call themselves administrators. We cannot allow such feudal medieval mindset to govern us, and it's the same case for the spectators watching. I do not say give them all the luxury, but give them 50% of what you give to these VIPs. If the owners, the managers of the team can get all kinds of facilities. If they are getting free food because they have invested in the team, then they know that if the ground is empty, then they will suffer huge losses. If you want people to come and watch the match, at least give them basic facilities. If you have car parks 10 to 100 meters from the main stadium, then give them either shuttle service or give them some kind of causeway or overhead bridge to walk on. In fact, even if you are the manager slash owner slash president of the team, I think it should be compulsory that despite their investment, they too should pay for the facilities. They cannot be given free tickets or compulsory passes. This mindset has to go. But then that's how sport is governed, especially in this country, and we are not going to go away from free passes and compulsory passes for a while. This was episode number 129 coming to you from the studios of the weekly show with Aditya under the aegis of the Aditya Cable and Digital Network in association with the Dusra.net, India's #1 website in sports, education and entertainment. Please send your valuable suggestions through your comments and audio recording to the email ID adityathewriter@gmail.com. You can also like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and Facebook page, and stay tuned for the next episode.